Good afternoon, and welcome to the November 2023 meeting of the New Ulm Safety Commission. We'll call the meeting to order here and start with the secretary's report. Everybody should have had the meeting minutes in their packet and had a chance to look at them and then look for a motion to approve them.
I so move.
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion and second to approve the meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next up is old business, Center Street and Garden Street intersection study update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission members. Just a quick update. In short, the intersection study has been reviewed and approved by city, county staff, along with MnDOT state aid engineer. We reviewed that with the city council at their October 17th meeting, as well as Brown County Commissioners at their October 7th meeting. From when we previously met and discussed the intersection, there was wishes for inclusion of a pedestrian tunnel and a slip lane. Slip lane for that traffic coming down the hill, making that right-hand turn onto Garden Street. That was reviewed, and ultimately, when studied, there wasn't enough benefit to include that in the final report, so that was omitted. But the tunnel was reviewed and also included as part of the final review of the city and the county commissioners. Ultimately, cost on the tunnel is about $1 million, maybe a little over that for cost. But both the county commissioners and the city council were very receptive to that. So that will stay in the report, or is in the report, as kind of a preferred alternative as well. Kind of next steps we have with that are, so now we have the final report. There was a couple items we had to review with MnDOT staff. They wanted inclusion of an all-way stop reviewed. We did include that in the report, and we actually invited MnDOT staff to come over and look at the intersection at 7:30 in the morning on a Friday. It was a cold and rainy Friday morning. Once they observed the intersection, they could see why we did not favor an all-way stop at that location. From that, state aid engineer, like I said, approved the report, and we are kind of at the final stages with that. So the report's done. Next step is really for city and county staff to work together and find the money for it. Yep.
So I have a question. So if there's a roundabout there and then a block away there's a stop sign, isn't there going to be like a traffic backup at certain times of the day?
That was analyzed as well through their modeling software. Ultimately, I think if we do move forward with something, it's my recommendation that if we do proceed with the roundabout at Center and Garden, we also put one at Center and Payne Street as well and get rid of the signal. That way we have one corridor that's kind of conducive to one another. Because there would be times with, looking at the traffic projections, that traffic stopped at the stoplight, especially for pedestrian crossing, because those times are longer when they push the button, that the traffic could back up into the roundabout. So knowing that, I think it's probably in our best interest to do roundabout at both locations just because of their close proximity, and then including that pedestrian tunnel as well.
So the pedestrian tunnel would be?
Would be west of the intersection, so up the hill.
Oh.
Because we need that grade to make that all
Oh,
work.
yeah. Okay.
There'd be significant retaining walls involved with that, but at least personally, I feel like something that would be beneficial, especially for the large groups of kids that cross together, coming to and from school or programming and things of that nature. It's much easier. It's a little extra walking. I'm not going to deny that. It's probably might be a block and a half or 2 blocks of extra walking by the time they walk up, to the west and switch back around and things of that nature. But I think something we're going to continue with.
There's no concern then about all these school kids that are trying to cross this roundabout? at 7:30 or 3:30 in the
Well,
afternoon?
the tunnel would be available.
But they still have to cross the street.
Not with the tunnel, that would be down, they could use a mid-block crossing. There's gonna be surface
Oh.
crossings no matter what we do.
Okay.
Roundabouts, again, we have that shorter crossing distance, and we could look at RFBs and things of that nature to assist that.
Okay.
Again, those are detailed designs that are way out yet, but, yeah. So we would ideally, most likely an RFB, probably at Center and Payne and Garden as well, to assist with those crossings in the morning. And if we do proceed with the tunnel, then they can cross and then cross at the mid-block crossing by the rec center. So, but yeah, our next steps are looking for funding. Because county and, like I said, the county and city are both kind of on board, but it's, when we combine roundabout, the tunnel, and then doing that one block stretch to Payne Street, we're getting into the $5 to $6 million price tag for a project, so it'd be a substantial undertaking. So that's really the update I have at this time.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from anyone? All right, we don't have to do any action on that,
Nope.
so we will go on to new business, which is First South Street parking restriction potential.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we received a request to our office from residents at City Center Apartments with concerns. I'm going to jump to the last picture first. While exiting the alley towards First South Street with sightline concerns. So as you can see, with vehicles parked, this is right at the alley exit. It's pretty difficult to see. The main concern is especially when trucks or larger vehicles are parked, especially looking to the west. To the east, it's not quite so bad, but is still obstructed views. And just for the commission's information here, originally this was a one-way alley from south to north. When City Center Apartments was constructed, we had a request to allow two-way traffic in the northern half because the alley is wider on the northern half. So it's a half block of two-way, and then the south half is one-way north. Staff feels that the concerns are warranted, especially after observing it in person. And again, bringing that to you today. The email correspondence is included in your packet for consideration. And then again, with the couple pictures and overview photo as well. So I'd be happy to entertain discussion or questions.
I can see where the problem is, and I often park on that side street headed downhill, and it's hard even to see the traffic when you're backing up, coming around the corner, so it makes sense to change it.
Sorry.
Would a more economical way to do it would be to make the alley, even though there are two lanes, make it into a one-way all the way across? Because if they go south, they're not going to have the parking issues on the second south that they do at first south.
And that was looked at back with the original traffic flow request. It's just, the alley is narrow, so, alleys are 14 feet in width. There really isn't room for that head-to-head traffic on the south end. The north end is wider. It can accommodate that head-to-head traffic a little bit better, but it would be if someone were exiting and wanting to enter on that south end, they would have to wait for that exiting vehicle.
Or are you saying
What
that only
has-
enter from the north?
I'm saying that it
Yeah.
would be, the alley would be made back into, no matter how wide it is, one lane, going
Oh, just
one
switching
way
direction.
from north
So-
to south,
Yeah,
exit to
got
the
it.
south.
So the one-way, the alleys are, and I don't know the entire history here, but they're made to be the opposite of what Minnesota Street is. So Minnesota, we're heading from north to south, and the alleys are that opposite direction to kind of move around that one-way street. a little more, I don't know, uniform, I guess, to have that alternate route, as opposed to that one-way. 'Cause, back, this is probably, it was way before me when this was laid out, but the thinking is to have, if you have a one-way, you need that opposite direction route easily accessible, and I think that's what the idea was with the alleys, being that,
The thing is, though, there's businesses on First North that's their main parking areas too. So if you're taking away from parking for them,
yeah, and there is plenty of parking, I believe, to the, further to the east. My opinion, I think losing the 2 stalls, looking west, there are 2 stalls. There's a driveway access here, and then these 2 stalls. We're not talking a ton of stalls. There is plenty of parking on the opposite side of the street as well. And then my thought was the 1 stall here would provide sight lines that would, you could creep out and see a little bit better. But ultimately, it's the commission's choice what you elect to do. So I guess from the traffic flow standpoint, I would be a little more hesitant to have a one-way alley in the same one-way direction as Minnesota Street. But that's ultimately your choice.
I think you might have answered my question, but to the west of those 2 spots, there's a gap of like 3 cars, but that's because that's a
Yeah,
driveway entrance?
and I don't know if they use that driveway.
Okay.
There is a curb cut there for a driveway. I don't know if that's used or not.
I don't think so, because they have their raised bed gardens, right?
Yeah, there's gardens there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if
So
I
it
can
would
find a
result
better-
in the loss of 3 parking spots?
I think that's what he's proposing, yeah.
That's what my proposal is. Again, the commission, you can recommend what you choose.
I think it makes sense to the west, the 2. Is it going to make much difference going down the hill? You still have a pretty bad sight line even with 1 car missing there, don't you?
Well, it would make sense to have it uniform on both sides of the alley. I don't know.
I'm just looking at a different overhead. So that driveway curb cut looks like at one point in time, business name, the Fruit Cellar, is that what's in there right now? There must have been a garage door there at some point in history because it lines up right with that
Oh,
area of the building.
and now it's building, or
Yep.
door, regular door and stuff there, yeah. Are we wanting to make a recommendation? I don't know, or do we want to maybe,
Any more discussion?
yeah, I don't know. Haven't seen a clear opinion from anybody yet.
I think it makes sense to change it to,
There we go. So yeah, so it doesn't even look like it's necessarily wide enough for a vehicle. So maybe at one point in time that was just a curb cut for pedestrian access or something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Could we move those 2 down to there?
I can't measure on this one. Shoot. And just
they
look.
wouldn't have cut that for I mean, there's no handicap parking, but for handicap
I'm guessing that's-
accessibility to
I'm
that
guessing
building.
Yeah, and that's
Because then they
what
wouldn't
my
have
guess
to
it
roll
was.
down the hill and
Right.
stuff.
I'm guessing that's what it's there for, is for just an additional, call it handicapped access. It's not anywhere near compliant, but just another access route to the building. Yeah.
or 100 years ago when it was the shoe repair shop. Because I think that the fruit cellar place is closed now.
Okay.
They closed that.
Well, I
Well-
don't know what we should do at this point. Yeah.
I would make a motion that we eliminate parallel parking in those 3 spots that were identified.
All right, we have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. Okay. Any further discussion on it? All right, there's a motion to remove 2 spots to the west and 1 spot to the east coming out of the alleyway there. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go forward with that recommendation. Thank you. All right, that looks like the end of our agenda, huh?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, like we discussed before the meeting, if the commission members do have something, generally I start preparing the agenda about the week before the meeting. So just feel free to shoot me an email with your request, and I'll make sure we get it on the agenda. Going to try to avoid a December meeting if possible, but if something comes up, we'll certainly call it. But kind of, I try to avoid December and January, just
Okay,
schedule-wise. People are busy with the holidays and things, so, but certainly if items come up, we'll
okay. So
see if we can get a meeting for them.
very likely
together.
not one, but if we do, it'll be December 7th probably. Huh?
Right.
Okay. All right, and there being no more business, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's the
Commissioners.
shortest meeting I've
That
ever.
was very quick.
Some of these are very short.
I have a question now, that